Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we always look for interesting aspects of the world of sports, both pro and con, depending on what the subject may be, on the line with us right now is a gentleman out of the Baton Rouge area. His name is Kevin Hood, and he'll be telling us about an interesting website he's come up with. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm doing so.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today. And let me go ahead and start. The reason why we have you on the show, tell everybody about what I consider an interesting website that you've started up.
I appreciate that. It's firehazard.com. I basically started the site just after frustration. I mean, most Saints fans know year after year we get our hopes up, and then it just kind of goes down. And it seems right now that we have the talent, we're just not getting the coaching. So I decided after going to a couple forums at NOLA.com, I went to one of the Saints forum there, and just people were, constantly talking about how they need a new coach and whatnot. So I figured, hey, I'll start up a website and see if it does pretty good. And first day that I went up, I put a poll on there, who needs to be fired, and got about 5,000 votes in the first day.
Pretty incredible. Now, how long has the website been running?
I can't tell you the exact date. I have somebody up there, I think about September. It was right before the LSU Georgia game in Tiger Stadium.
Okay. Now, I take it you've probably been a fan of the Saints for a good while?
I'm 23, and as long as I can remember watching football, I watch the Saints on every Sunday.
Okay. Now, I take it, a lot of fans get frustrated, and all too often they'll either curse at the TV or, do something silly because they got frustrated. And yet you actually decided to take the time to get a website, to express your own thoughts as well as giving other fans a chance to convey their thoughts. How much time did it take to go into building the website?
Well, to be honest with you, what took the longest was gathering the stats. I wanted to have about as accurate stats as I could get as far as who the organization has drafted since Hazlitt's been in office, his head coach position, and which players we've traded and whatnot. That took the longest. It basically took, it only took me 2 or 3 days because this is what I do. But the longest was just finding the information that was accurate with the dates, because I needed to know which draft picks they picked in this year, what round they were. And a lot of sites tend to cut it off at a couple years, so that's what took the longest. But I mean, it took between 2 to 3 days to do the research and about a week, I guess, to put it together.
Okay. By the way, did you get your inspiration from this? Because there's a similar website in the state of Florida somebody put together called fireonzook.com in reference to the Florida head coach. Had you heard of that website before?
Actually, yeah. Somebody in one of the forums I was in pointed that out to me. I went and checked it out. I like the concept of it as far as getting it out there to people, and maybe somebody that's not from down here and with some influence could see it and kind of point to it or something, maybe get something to happen. But basically, what I wanted to do was separate myself from that site as far as they poke fun at Zook a lot, and my thing is I have nothing personally against Haslett or any of the coaches. Personal level, I think Haslett's a good man. I think it's just time for a change, and maybe this is a way that we can get it if we can get enough people to hear about it.
Okay, and let me also ask, I want to tell the listeners a funny story. The way I contacted Kevin was, I was actually on another website called ProFootballTalk.com, and at the end of their front page, they had your website as a link under Unofficial Saints websites, and I believe when I first contacted you, you weren't aware they made you a link.
Oh, actually, I had no idea. I have actually got to get the address from you so I can check it out myself. I'm glad it's happening. I'm trying to get it to where somebody up top can hear it. Maybe it would light a fire more than anything else. And it probably won't, but it kind of gives it's a good place for. I get emails from people with their complaints, and I post them on there. If it's kind of off the wall and real rude, I usually don't post that. That's not what I'm going for. But if it's credible to an extent, it's an opinion, I'll post it on there.
Mm-hmm. Now I take it, following the Saints as long as you have, that when Haslett came in 2000. He probably did incredible work for a first-year head coach, not to mention it was the first time being a head coach in the NFL. They win their first ever playoff game. And since then, it just seems like a lot of things have just fallen short for whatever reason, and the team overall has turned out pretty average. So I take it coming off that really first solid season, I take it you probably feel the same way, that since then it's just been basically 3 disappointing seasons.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first year was unbelievable. With the injury to Blake and to come back with Brooks to step in there and to pull us through and to ride that. We actually went to the game to end the season, and then went to the playoff game, and it was just unbelievable. And I got, confetti and stuff from the game. I kept that, being a diehard Saints fan. Never knew when I'd see the day that they'd actually win a playoff game, but just think that they have the potential every year, and the talent's there. I don't do a lot of research on players, but you can just tell that the talent's there. It just doesn't seem like they're motivated. I don't know. It just seems like the coaching is what's got to go.
Now, of course, I'll bet you one thing that probably is upsetting to yourself and a lot of fans right now as we speak is how well Jake Delhomme has gone as after they let him go and now off in Carolina.
Well, that's basically what we figured. My dad and I talk about that all the time. I have a lot of respect for Jake, and I just think he got the shaft down here. They always said that he was a great backup, and they put him in if they trusted him to win the games, but it just seemed like 2 years ago whenever Brooks hurt his arm that he should have been in there, and when he did come in, that he did his job. It's almost like Hazlett's got the mentality that Brooks is a starter no matter what, and that's kind of scary.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. Now, like I said, your website's had a good many hits already, and people posting their comments and such. And I tell you what, it's really interesting to know that there is someone like yourself out there that's willing to give fans an open opportunity to give their opinions. Based on the opinions you've read so far, are any of the fans writing in pointing towards a certain aspect as to why the Hazlitt tenure hasn't done that well? Are they looking more at coaching decisions? Are they looking more at personnel? Anything you can read from fans' opinions?
Just a lot of disappointment all around. A good bit of people, I don't know if I posted it on my website, but the sites that I go to, it's a lot of talk about Mueller getting cut out of there, and it just seems like our personnel decision has gone down since then. Our drafts haven't been quite as well. We've a lot of players who let go were playing in the playoffs this year with Rolf and Grady Jackson and Jake Delhomme leading them. It's almost kind of sad, but it just seems like the Saints have always been the farm club. They train whoever needs to go. Once they get too good for us, they go play somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. But I tell you, it must feel good being in Baton Rouge right now with LSU winning a national championship.
It's unbelievable. We went down Saturday, couldn't get into the game. Go to every game because that's about the only we didn't get to go to, but it was unbelievable. Still riding high on that.
Very much so. And so I take it, once again, for all the people listening out there right now, if you want to go to the website, it's www.firehazlitt.com. And like you just mentioned, they'll have their opportunity to read some of the information you've put on, post their own opinions, and basically just try to have a lot of fun as long as they keep it nice and clean.
Yeah, just keep it clean and no personal bashes of anybody. Like I said, I don't have, as a person, I don't have anything against Hazlitt. I've met him before. It just seems like a time to change. And I'd encourage people to go on there and send us emails. That's how we keep the stuff up to date. It's more of a side project for me. I don't get paid for the site or anything. It's just to keep it up so fans can post stuff, and hopefully somebody, like, look what happened now, somebody catches it and maybe get some publicity out of it, and it does some good. It may not, but yeah, I'd encourage people to go there and visit the site, and also you can click on my link on my web design company in case anybody needs a website.
Okay, that sounds pretty neat. Well, Kevin, we really appreciate your time, and who knows, maybe the right person might end up reading the website, read the opinions, and maybe down the road changes could occur.
I sure hope so.
And good evening. It's time for the 5 o'clock news here on Oldie 640 KTIB. I'm W.Taylor. The time right now is 5:03. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we just had a minute ago. Drug agents shut down an East Houma drugstore Tuesday and arrested its pharmacist in connection with alleged illegal sales of the powerful narcotic OxyContin. 67-year-old David K. Chauvin Sr., owner of Chaumart Pharmacy, located at 762 Grand Caillou Road, was booked into the Terrebonne Parish Jail on charges of possession with intent to distribute OxyContin and Xanin. If convicted, he faces up to 10 years in prison on each count. Terrebonne Parish Sheriff Jerry Larpenter said agents permitted customers in the store to conclude their business before shutting it down. Police reports state Chauvin cooperated with the authorities from the time they arrived to the time they placed him in jail. Sheriff Larpenter said Chauvin's total bond was set at $200,000. Larpenter said authorities began the investigation when they allegedly found a companion of Chauvin's with prescription medicine they thought was suspicious. The Louisiana Board of Pharmacy was notified, as well as the federal agency, and further details were gathered, which led to a warrant and Tuesday's arrest. Chauvin's pharmacy license was also revoked Tuesday, Larpenter said, and the store ordered closed by the State Pharmacy Board. The store may not reopen under Chauvin's name, Larpenter said, unless he can secure another pharmacy license. A 32-year-old Galliano woman will spend the next 15 years behind bars for killing her husband. Reese Sheremy entered a guilty plea on a charge of manslaughter last month in connection with 31-year-old Tate Sheremy's 2001 shooting death. State District Judge Jerome Barbera III sentenced her to the maximum penalty she could have received according to the terms of the plea bargain prosecutors worked out. Tate Sheremy was found dead in his home with 5 bullet wounds in his chest. Police reports say he had apparently been shot while he slept. Reese Sheremy denied killing him, but friends and family members said the two had a troubled relationship. Sheremy told detectives that she and the couple's 8-year-old son had gone to Walmart into a friend's house the night before the killing and returned early that morning. When she went to bed around 4 a.m., she found her husband dead. But several Sheremy's acquaintances told police she had approached them in the months before the shooting, asking for help killing her husband. A Galliano man who shot his girlfriend as she worked at a South Lafourche restaurant has been sentenced to serve 15 years in prison. And Andre L. Sheremy, 33, was charged with attempting to kill Melissa Naquin during the month of July 2001. Sheremy went to Naquin's place of employment at Taylor's restaurant, and after a brief argument, pulled a gun and fired at Naquin, who was struck in the leg by a bullet as she dove over a kitchen counter for safety. Sheremy fled the premises, but was apprehended quickly by deputies with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. Assistant District Attorneys Joe Saunier and Jennifer Richard prosecuted the case against Sheremy, who pled guilty to attempted manslaughter on December 1, 2003, the morning of his scheduled jury trial. Sentencing was set for January 27th to allow the victim the opportunity to prepare a statement to the court. Sheremy faced a maximum sentence of 20 years on the charge. If you have caller ID, take a look at it starting tomorrow when the phone rings, and you'll know if a telemarketer is calling. Federal regulations requiring telemarketing firms to identify themselves kick in tomorrow. Up until now, telemarketing calls had shown up on caller ID as out of area. But either the name of the company trying to make a sale or the firm making the call now has to pop up, along with a phone number customers can call to tell the company to stop calling. The new regulations are part of the rules setting up as part of the Do Not Call registry. The telemarketing industry was against the registry, and an appeal is pending, but it supports the caller ID, the caller ID requirement, saying it gives customers the trump card, the option of not doing business with someone if they don't want to. Time right now is 5:07. Forget the $14 billion to fund the big plan to save Louisiana's dying wetlands, for it now at least. That's the sober assessment by Louisiana officials of the state's year-long effort to get Congress or the White House to boost funding to tens of millions of dollars a year instead of a couple $1 million to push coastal restoration to the next level. Randy Hanche, acting secretary of the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, says the expectation that Congress was going to authorize the money at once this year was already unrealistic. Scientists, communities, and lawmakers have developed a detailed plan on how to better engineer Louisiana's coast against land loss. The state has lost 1,900 square miles of marsh and swamp since 1930. The plan stalled at the White House level as President Bush's environmental and financial advisors studied the document. For this year, the last hope is that President Bush might include $50 million for the coast in his executive budget due out in February. In conversation and by letter, Governor Kathleen Blanco asked Bush for that amount.
When it's time to buy, folks come to rely on Pivotal Chrysler. Service and prices and variety, Pivotal Chrysler.
If you're in the market for a quality used vehicle at an affordable price, then check out the great deals waiting for you now at Thibodeau Chrysler Dodge Jeep Used Car Center. Choose from a complete line of factory program cars and a huge selection of low-mileage trade-ins. Thibodeau Chrysler's Used Car Center is sure to have the right car to fit your budget. Save money and take advantage of super low financing available for qualified buyers. You'll feel confident knowing that Thibodeau Chrysler's 5-star service department is available to handle all your service needs. So before buying your next program or pre-owned vehicle, stop by the Thibodeau Chrysler Dodge Jeep Used Car Center, located at 1505 Canal Boulevard in Thibodeau, or call 447-Jeep.
Sorry about that little technical snafu. So what we'll do right now is actually do the LSU Ag News Update right now.
2003 was a good one for Louisiana farmers, and even though it's hard to predict the future when it comes to crops, LSU Ag Center economist Dr. Kirk Guidry says this year could be similar to last.
We're really looking in terms of 2004 growing year as kind of shaping up the same way that 2003 did.
Guidry says stocks are tight for corn and grain sorghum, which should mean good prices. Other factors are positive, too.
We've got plenty of support to keep prices where they were in 2003. I don't see any reduction from 2003 at this point, given the current supply and demand situations. How much higher can we go from 2003 in the case of corn and soybeans? That remains to be seen.
Mother Nature is unpredictable, but LSU Ag Center economist Dr. Mike Selassie says with better prices, we should see more producers growing rice.
A lot depends on the weather, but we should comparable rice yields that we've had over the last couple of years.
This is Toby Blanchard reporting.
KTIB news time right now is 5:11. Let me move on over to state news. Cell phone records show that on the night of the kidnapping of Mary Ann Fowler, wife of an imprisoned former elections commissioner, accused serial killer Derek Todd Lee was in the same area. Fowler's son, John Pritchett, said he was told the cell phone records placed Lee within 200 yards of his mother, who disappeared from a sandwich shop in West Baton Rouge Parish on Christmas Eve in 2002. West Baton Rouge Chief Deputy Sheriff Mike Kazes says today that while the cell phone records show Lee's phone call registered at a phone tower 13 miles away, police can't say how close Lee might have been to the shop where Fowler was abducted. Kazes says the phone records only indicate Lee was in the area around West Baton Rouge Parish and neighboring Iberville Parish on the night Fowler was kidnapped. After more than a year since Fowler's disappearance and months of speculation that Lee could be involved, the cell phone records are some of the only new details that have come out about the case. Pritchett said he believes that Lee is the police's prime suspect in his mother's kidnapping. Investigators said DNA linked Lee to the murders of 6 South Louisiana women between September 2001 and March 2003, and a separate assault and attempted murder. He faces a March 1st trial date in the first murder case and is pleaded innocent. Tenet Healthcare Corporation is putting nearly a third of its hospitals up for sale in a major restructuring that includes a $1.4 billion charge against earnings in the fourth quarter. The nation's second biggest hospital chain says the sale of 27 hospitals, including 19 in California, would lead to net losses for all of 2003 and 2004. They also plan to sell 2 hospitals in Louisiana, the 124-bed Doctors Hospital in Metairie and the 154-bed St. Charles General Hospital in New Orleans. In addition, the company is selling facilities in Massachusetts, Missouri, and Texas. The state's top education official says Governor Kathleen Blanco has talked him into staying for another 4 years. But the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education has the final say on whether Superintendent Cecil Picard will remain. Blanco says she doubts that will be a problem. She says she urged Picard to stay on because he has moved education forward in Louisiana with his new ideas. Picard says he wants to stay to continue developing programs begun since he took office in '96. One of those programs is the expansion of pre-kindergarten. Currently, less than a third of the state's 68 school districts have programs that teach 4-year-olds. Blanco says she plans to increase funding for that program from $40 million to $60 million and has given Commissioner of Administration Jerry Luc LeBlanc the task of finding the necessary funds. Picard says he wants to build on what has been done over the past 8 years. He also is interested in continuing an early elementary school reading and math program, pushing for higher teacher pay and improving the basic budgets for public schools. The board will vote next month on Picard's request for a new 4-year contract. Time right now is 5:14, and now let's get to the proper segment with Get It Growing.
Coming up next on Get It Growing, we'll talk about planting Irish potatoes.
When it's time to buy, folks come to rely on Zero Chrysler. Service and prices and variety, Zero Chrysler.
If you're in the market for a quality used vehicle at an affordable price, then check out the great deals waiting for you now at Thibodeau Chrysler Dodge Jeep Used Car Center. Choose from a complete line of factory program cars and a huge selection of low-mileage trade-ins. Thibodeau's Chrysler's Used Car Center is sure to have the right car to fit your budget. Save money and take advantage of super low financing available for qualified buyers. You'll feel confident knowing that Thibodeau Chrysler's 5-star service department is available to handle all your service needs. So before buying your next program or pre-owned vehicle, stop by the Thibodeau Chrysler Dodge Jeep Used Car Center, located at 1505 Canal Boulevard in Thibodeau, or call 447-Jeep.
Irish potatoes are one of my favorite potatoes to grow. Now, it's interesting that we call them Irish potatoes because actually the potato is native to South America. Be that as it may, you can plant them this time of the year in your vegetable garden. What you want to do is buy seed potatoes. These are small tubers. Now, if they're about the size of an egg, you can plant them whole. Usually they're larger than that, however, so you can cut them into pieces. Each piece should be about the size of an egg, and also make sure each piece has an eye or a growing point on it. You want to plant those seed pieces about 4 inches deep in the soil. Space the seed pieces about 1 foot apart. Now, they'll begin to grow when the weather warms up. If they get nipped back by a late freeze, don't worry, they'll recover and begin to grow again. The potatoes will be ready to harvest around about May. And boy, are those fresh potatoes right out of the vegetable garden delicious. For Get It Growing, I'm Dan Gill with the LSU Ag Center.
Oldie 640, KTIB time is 5:16. Stay tuned for What's His Name and Bayou Sports Talk coming up after these very important messages.